It is good to have you back. The peculiar thing about this train station attack that happened in Igwebe in Edo State is this is the second one happening in 10 months in Nigeria. And one of the questions that has to come to mind is, has Nigeria not learned from the one that happened the first time? Or is it that our train stations were never designed to have security personnel manning them?
You know, it is saddening that this happens all the time. Something happens, and you know, it's like a vicious cycle. So something happens, the Abuja Kaduna train attack happened, and you would expect the questions that were asked were, why were there no security equipment, surveillance? How could that happen without that attack being detected in the first place, and how come it happened and there was no challenge, and then they successfully took that large number of people into the forest, and you saw how long it took before they were being released in batches. And in releasing them, it was not by any government efforts. Family members were contributing money, churches were contributing money to pay ransom. So when that happened, you will expect that government will wake up in terms of equipping those, train stations.
You are referring to the Kaduna train attack now?
Yes. Okay. So that this has happened again in Benin. So we are going back to lamentations, condemnations, and then we are waiting for another one to happen because government is likely not going to do anything. So it speaks to both the lack of, it raises questions about all the expenditure that government has put into security. You know how many times under this government loans have been obtained. The National Assembly keeps approving loans for the president purportedly to provide security equipment, to train security personnel, and at the end of the day we don't see any improvement in security in this country. So I think that unfortunately the life of this administration is coming to an end. So I really don't expect any much to happen. Only to hope that the incoming government will take security seriously.
And what I find very interesting is a man was attacked and wounded 6 people at the Gare du Nord. That is the busiest train station in Europe, and this happened just this Wednesday morning. It left 1 person seriously injured, but the interesting thing about this is police officers shut down that man immediately. And it's interesting to know that train station attacks happens a lot, but it is this stabbing spree that happens all around the world. But one of the things that we find peculiar there is always security there that is able to stop that chaos from happening. So it makes me wonder, because it seems like the police officers we have in Nigeria are not enough. Is it about time for us to start advocating that there should be special security in our trains, at our train station? Because train station is supposed to be the second safest means of transportation after air transport. But if this is happening concurrently, then does this mean that we should be tasking the government to create special security squad for train stations?
I mean, everywhere in the world, train stations are usually manned by special security, because just like you said, after air travel, travel by train is the most popular means. As a matter of fact, in most of the West, people travel more by train. So you expect that government will take measures to secure these locations, but this does not happen. So, and when you look around recently in the last few months, let's say between November and now, we have had insecurity spreading. Lately, I mean, a few days ago in Lagos, you saw the Yoruba agitators, and I think one of them was shot dead. Only yesterday, We read about the incidents in Imo State. Following I'm just talking about, there's no part of this country that is secure, including train stations. In Kaduna, you remember that shortly after the Abuja-Kaduna train attack, there was also an attack at the airport, which shut down movement, transportation by any means in Kaduna for a long time. So what it means is simply that, government is not doing what it ought to do to provide adequate security. I don't think we have enough manpower to handle security. Training, which is key in terms of building professionalism and competence, is lacking. Equipment, intelligence gathering, all these are absent. It simply shows that nothing is. As a matter of fact, security agents that themselves are victims of insecurity. Every day they are being killed, they're being targeted, shot at and killed, and that's the end for their families. So those who are alive, seeing that this is a situation, are not encouraged to put in their best, because they know that when they die, their families are left on their own. So there is no motivation.
And when the work of security, securing lives and property of people comes to mind, it's something that you would expect. It's supposed to be a calling, so to speak.
Absolutely.
For people who have this heroic deed in them, they want to make sure that everyone in their environment, they are safe and secure. But in Nigeria here, you would see a lot of people rushing for these uniform jobs because it is the means of survival. It's federal government's job, and it's supposed to pay you. They're not supposed to owe you salaries, and it's even a means for an avenue for you to make more money. Do you feel like, because a lot of people are not going for the security jobs out of the best interest of their neighbors, is not coming from that part of their heart because they want to guard, would you say it's part of the reasons why we have police officers that are not motivated and they are not really trying their best, rather they are looking for what to extort from the people?
Yeah, just like you rightly pointed out, the police, let me use the police for an illustration. The police everywhere in the world is supposed to be the police is supposed to be a very honorable profession. It should actually be an elite profession, because we expect that only those who have certain qualifications will come into the police. Now, police is not supposed to be a dumping ground for just anybody. So it's supposed to be a career path, and people those who join the police ought to join it because they understand that it's a profession and that this is something they want to do. So you find a situation where in Nigeria people join the police simply, it's just one of those job opportunities, and some of them don't even know what it entails to be a police officer. I have had some police recruits say that at least with the uniform and the gun, I can stand on the roads, stop vehicles, extort money. So for them, that is their motivation. That is their goal. It's not to contribute to safety and security. So you now also look at the recruitment procedure. There is, and I keep using the police, and it applies to what I mean. There is a recruitment guideline for the Nigerian police. Now, this guideline is largely circumvented. And I tell you the story of what happened between 2000 and 2004 when Obasanjo was president. Because Nigeria was coming out of long years of military rule, returned to democracy in 1999. Throughout the period of military rule, there was no police recruitment. Officers were either retiring or dying. So by the time democracy came back, we had a shortfall. We had less than about 150,000 personnel in the police. So there was need for massive recruitment to make up for that shortfall. Now, President Obasanjo decided that came up with a policy of recruiting 10,000, is it 10,000 per year for a period of 4 years. Now, after the first exercise, he had to order a moratorium. You know what happened? In his own words, he said that the recruitment procedure was so compromised that it allowed criminals and misfits to find their way into the police. So these are the people that you see every day. That police officer who shot that female lawyer who was with her family in a vehicle, how else will you explain that conduct? Why would you shoot? Why would you just pull a trigger? That person cannot be seen.
Well, so, there has been insinuations of spiritual manipulation.
Bullshit. You see, for me, these things cannot be. It's just like somebody going to court to say that these things are not verifiable. And I think it's only an investigation that will determine what happened, whether he was under influence, you know, and of course, police officers have reason to misbehave because, one, you don't train them well. Two, you don't motivate them well. You don't pay them well. You keep them long hours under the sun, and the normal human being will become mentally disoriented, and anything can happen. So there are many ways to explain these things. It's not just about spiritual manipulation. I don't think. But if it is, the point remains that he has committed extrajudicial killing and must face justice.
Yes, and then now speaking about security challenges on the road, because it's as if people run from road to consider train, and this is where we are having, you know, it makes one wonder, is it that everyone would try to consider traveling by air, which is not affordable for a lot of Nigerians. More than half of Nigerians cannot afford traveling by flight, and which brings us back to the former one that was left, that is the road transportation. And our roads in Nigeria are liable to become very bad.
Death traps, actually.
That was the word that was used to describe it in one of the journals I was reading, death traps. And it is because of this, a lot of people make use of these opportunities. They use it to rob, they use it to kidnap, they use it to kill. So it makes one wonder, what strategy would you advise that maybe the police or the government should adopt so that we do not have the continuous repeat of all this?
Oh, the first thing is to, I mean, you know, okay, like if you I was just reading a report this morning about the roads in the southeast, for example. Apart from the fact that the roads are not good, they are not motorable. So, and sometimes police officers will stop you and say they want to check road worthiness of your vehicle, but the road itself is not worthy. You know, so but apart from the roads not being worthy, you know, you also find, you know, security agents marking checkpoints, you know, after short distances, and in spite of this, bandits still operate freely. You remember when the prelate or the Methodist prelate was kidnapped somewhere in the Abia state, and the shocking revelations he made about the possibility that security agents were providing cover for this. So the point I'm making is that, and you talked about road transport, I had to shelve a travel because I could not afford the cost of flight. Nigerians are so impoverished that there are very few people. The people who can afford flights in this country are people who are within government, you know, circles, people who have access to stolen public funds. But you know, Nigerians are too poor to afford road transport, you know. So what needs to be done? I don't think there is security strategy, because if there was, the same type of crime will not keep repeating itself, and we keep getting the same reaction from government. Government will simply, you know, condemn it, and the president will order security agents to crack down on the bandits. With what new thing did you provide for them? Today we are hearing about police officers complaining about being owed 6 months arrears. So how do you expect? So they are demotivated. They are so they are completely they've lost interest in the job. They're just there because at least I have something that keeps them busy, and I expect they're not committed to the job. So government has no plan. Even they are saying it's not being implemented. So I think it's about, and for example, if you take elections, for example, elections are coming, you expect that there will be security threat assessments, for example, to determine the nature of threats, security threats in different locations, and to know how to equitably mobilize security resources to address the needs, security needs of those areas. But ask me if that has happened. Every day you hear that police officers are being trained on election security. To what effect? So government is not committed to, because the truth is that government has not told us what they have done with all the resources, all the loans in billions that have left Nigerians unborn. Our tomorrow has been mortgaged. So what is government doing with all the resources? We don't see what is happening. Where are the equipment for security agencies to even work? Where is the intelligence? So it's simply to have a better government that has, government that understands what it means to govern a country. Competence, qualification, vision, and mission. It's not just this type of government that is run. The man in government is not in charge of government. There are people around him who are using government, authority of government to steal, and they don't care about what happens to this country. That's why insecurity is escalating every day, and we're not seeing improvement.
Yes, and one of the things that I would say we should make shiver run down anyone's spine is the fact of the one you mentioned earlier, that police officers sometimes cover for this miscreant, the hoodlums, the ones who are kidnapping on the road and all that. It makes one begin to wonder, where does the weeding out even begin? How do we even start removing the bad egg, separating the good from the bad? That seems so long and tedious. Where do we begin?
You see, there are many dimensions of insecurity in this country, and insecurity anywhere. So it requires multidimensional approach. What, for example, is the relationship between the citizens, the community, and security agents? Because security agents cannot effectively discharge their duties without public trust, without public support. So what is the level of, for example, you talked about a policeman who shot, so just like the bandits that attacked Apostle Suleiman. Now, one of them was arrested and a divisional police officer killed him. That is madness. Because the truth is that, and it creates room for people to suspect that there is a cover-up. So why will you kill somebody who is suspected of involvement in that kind of, of crime? You expect that that person will be interrogated to get further information, to know who sent him or who are those working with him. All they do is shoot. So there is no, just like I said, there's no plan or strategy on how to tackle insecurity, because there are different dimensions. Like I said, you need community support, you even need research. Government needs to engage professors in universities to do research on crime and how to deal with crime, what is the cost of crime. There are many people who have a role to play. Government has a role to play, the citizens have a role to play, the media has a role to play, but government is not, there's no way to engage these various, to address the various dimensions of crime. Government is simply, Nigeria is like is moving on its own dynamics without any deliberate effort to govern. So things are just moving on their own. And so things happen, we lament, and then we wait for another one to happen. That's simply what's happening.